Hey everybody, it's Dana. I want to resume, maybe restart our conversations about the five element theory and the seasons of the year. So in a second, I'm going to flip screens and start that conversation with you guys. I am going to start today talking about earth. That's where we are. And I'm going to go ahead and move into fire because that's where we're going. Actually, that's wrong. We're going to wood, so I'll talk about wood. And then what I'm going to do in a separate video is all of them. And I'm going to try to condense that down into a couple of different videos, one where you get all of them in an overview, and then we break them down in a little more detail. I haven't figured out how to share this in a written format because it's kind of complex and my brain gets a little funky in how I write it all out. But I will start trying to share more of that with you and give you some food for thought as you think about what you're looking for in yourself or in your pets, and sort of what you do with all this information, because it really is crazy fascinating, and it is a much deeper story about their body and their behavior than it seems on the surface. So it's important to look at the greater picture. And as you're saying things like, why does my dog have allergies? Or why does my dog get hot spots? Or why does my dog have some quirky behavior at 11 o'clock at night? All of this stuff is quite intertwined. And so we're going to talk more about that. We're going to teach more about that. And we're going to keep ourselves moving forward. And I am going to get on a schedule. So I'm going to switch screens here and share my crazy master spreadsheet with you guys. I know this is hard to read. This is why I'm telling you it's difficult to go in a format that's usable by anybody but me. So it is what it is, and I'm just going to walk you through earth, and then we're going to move to wood today, and what some of this means. So right now we are in the season of earth. We went into the earth on March the 7th. Remember that we go to earth 4 times a year between the other seasons. It happens for 2 weeks, 4 times a year between the other seasons. And this is a period of bringing things back to Mother Earth, getting back into a grounding state, right? Bringing things back into stability, looking for that grounding, looking for that stability, sort of bringing everything back home and preparing to go into the next season. So it's the end of one season and the preparation of moving to the other. When we look at this in the 5-element theory, earth is mother life. It is the life force of all things. It is the child of fire, the mother of metal, and quote unquote controlled by wood. So wood's where we're headed next. If we look at this in our lifespan, for anybody or anything, this is sort of the middle of life, the middle years, midlife, reaching maturity, sort of hitting that peak before we begin to move into different senior phases or elder phases or final phases of life. It is about stability, responsibility, community, livelihood, survival, all of those things. It is a time of comfort and protection, building emotional bonds, and finding grounding. When we're out of whack, we seem unable to concentrate. Things seem muddied. Muddled is a word that might make sense there. We can't get focus or clarity or clear on the things that we are trying to figure out. And y'all, I am struggling with this one right now. I've been in this state for a little while. Even you saw me take a break off of all these Facebook posts that I've been wanting to do and just sort of step back from that and sort of just trying to find that footing again. This is the description of me today. So been doing a lot of work with oils and meditation to try and rebuild that grounding, that centering, that clarity of me. So you may find that this is true for you, animals, others at this time. It's a time where we might lose contact or coherence with the present, right? So that we are not grounded means we are sort of somewhere else. Our attention is diverted. We are not centered and grounded like we need to be. So this would be considered that time of having a flare-up of Earth or being deficient in Earth, okay? We can have medical situations that indicate a deficiency in this area. It can be fatigue, it can be paleness of the lips and the mouth, stool changes to be quite loose during this time. For a woman or a non-spayed female, shorter cycles, problematic cycles could be an issue. Change in appetite, to have a very poor appetite, to not want to eat well, that mental spaciness, that sort of we're floating around everywhere but center. Getting bruised easily could be an indication. Getting really fatigued after eating. We can also see a shortness of breath, a uterine prolapse. So remember, if we think about puppy season, right? This is spring is the time many of our animals have moved into the preparation for new puppies, new calves, new horses. It's the time of year. Now that's not the only time, but that in nature, this is when we're headed to spring, right? So we can find more uterine prolapse at this time, the feelings of being overwhelmed. We can see diabetic issues, hypoglycemia, craving for sweets. The tongue, so I mentioned that gets pale around the lips or the tongue. We might see it get a very thick coating on it, be swelled a bit, maybe even change the edges. A scallop texture to the edges might show up. And just being, again, fatigued, too busy to feel like you can get creative or to take the time to do the creativity things that you need. Struggling with that creativity or imagination. That's me. I'm in this funk as we speak. So those are signs of deficiency. If we have too much, right? Remember, there's a yin and a yang, excess and a deficiency for everything, right? So if we have too much, we could find ourselves with feeling heavy, really heavy, feeling a headache kind of thing. Yeast infections could start to show up. Sinus congestions, respiratory phlegm. I have the sinus and the respiratory going on right now. Lymph nodes under the skin. Y'all, the other day I thought, do I have a real problem going on? Because mine were actually swollen. nausea, vomiting, belching, constipation. So remember, the deficiency had loose stool. Now we have constipation. Hiccuping, wringing of the hands, tendency to worry, tendency to care for others at your own expense, obsessing with your thoughts, the brain chatter, the noise gets to be too much. We mentioned the muddled thinking. We mentioned that stick coating on the tongue. These are all things I need to tune up in the final version of this when we do it. But you can see that this is really when we see either we have moved to grounding, we've become balanced, which is what we're all really seeking, or we have these excess and deficiencies. So this will end, Earth season will end on the 20th of March, and we will move to wood. But sticking with Earth for a minute, the climate is damp and humid. The time of day is late morning, so somewhere between 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. The direction, if we have one, is center. So think being centered, grounded. The organ, the yin organ, the feminine organ associated with this is our stomach, pancreas, spleen, digestion. The yang organ, the yang organ is stomach. The yin organ is the pancreas. And again, our emotion is the worry, the sympathy, how much we tolerate, that sort of thing. We are in a sense of taste. The sound is singing, so very la la la, tonal, blah blah blah. Everything's singing, sing-songy, that sort of thing. So we have to look and listen for sounds from our pets, from their internal systems, from the sounds they make when they're scratching their ears or rolling on their back or whatever those things may be. Color is yellow. If you start seeing yellow color in their poop, in their face, in their eyes, in their skin, any of that kind of stuff, we need to take a look at that. When we move into foods, the color of foods, we would also want to be yellow, right? The taste is sweet, and the smell is very fragrance, almost too sweet. Some would describe it as sickly sweet. Tissue is our muscles. Secretions are in the saliva. Now, connect these two dots. You and I make digestive enzymes in our saliva. Your dog makes digestive enzymes in his pancreas. So remember, we talked about the organ being the pancreas here. So you, again, start to see how all these things come together. The orifice is the mouth, which makes sense to be part of the saliva, right? And the thought is being very careful, all right? So just awareness. Look for patterns, look for quirkiness. Things that we think are oddly quirky might actually be trying to tell us something very interesting. So that is a brief overview of the season of Earth. I'll come back and we will do the season of Wood. If I can figure out how to... You can hang up now. I am trying to figure out how to turn this off. And oh, there we go. So